Hello, YouTube! We are on the Real Programming channel. I'm its host, my name is Andrei. I greet you. Welcome. This is our 22 lesson. We'll talk about HTML and JavaScript. And topic, what can JavaScript objects have to? Okay. Now, let's talk about solution for exercise now shown as the Web Build Cinema solution. Okay. Let's look on Sublime text. Exactly. Don't forget to remember, please, you will find all the code and materials under this video in the description link to Google Drive and the Sublime text. Okay. We've created two objects, Movie 1 and Movie 2, for the two movies. Movies 1 has four properties: title, genre, rating and show times. Title and genre are strings, rating a number, and show times is an array containing the show times of the movie as strings. Movie 2 also has four properties: title, genre, rating and show times. Remember to separate your properties with commas. We use the same property names but different property values as Movie 1. Our next showing is that we've already had a small test of mixing objects and functions. Let's take this feature by writing some code to tell us when the next showing of a movie is. Our function is going to take a movie as an argument and return a string containing the next time it plays, based on your current time. Okay, here is our new function which takes a movie objects. We're grabbing the current time using JavaScript's data objects. We're not going to worry about the details of this one yet, but just know that it returns the current time in milliseconds. Now use the movies array, show times, and iterate over the show times. For each show time we get its time in milliseconds and then compare. If the time hasn't happened yet, then it's the next showing, so return it. If there are no more shows, we just return null. Ready bake code. Here is some ready bake code that just take a string with a format like 1 or 3 and converts it to time in many seconds. And don't worry about this code. About this. And it uses regular expressions, which you will learn later in your JavaScript education. For now, just go with it. Now we use the functions by calling getNext, show and use the string. It returns in alert. And let's do it again with Movie 2. Now changing works. Did you catch this in the previous code? That doesn't look like anything we've seen before. This is really just a shorthand for a series of steps we could have taken to get the length of the showtimes array from the movies object. We could have written this instead. First we grab the showtimes array, then we use it to access the length property. But we can do all this in one shot by changing together the expressions. Let's step toward how this works. Evaluates to the movie objects, which has a show times property that is an array, which has property name length. Test it at that drive in. Get the code on the previous page, type it, and let's give it a test run. You'll use the text, the getNext showing function takes whether movie in hand and figures out the next showing time. Feel free to create some new movies, objects of your own, and give them a test drive too. We did at our own local time of 20:30 pm. Note our code isn't quit production code quality. If you run it after the last movie shown, you'll get null. Try again the next day. And this is our code. War Banzai movie. And objects can behavior too. You didn't think objects were just for story numbers, strings, and array, did you? Objects are active. They can do things. Dogs don't just sit there. They bark, run, play, catch, and the dog. So objects should too. Given everything you learned in this chapter, you're all set to add behavior to your objects. Here is how we do that. When an object has a function in it, we say that object has a method. We can add a function directly to our object like this. Notice we're making use of anonymous functions and assigns it to the bark property of the objects. Rather than saying this is a function in this objects, we just say this is a method. They're the same thing, but everyone refers to object functions as methods. To call a method an object, we use the object name along with the method using our dot notation and supply any arguments needed. We tell an object to do something by calling methods on it. In this case, we're calling Fido's bark methods. Manuel back at WebBuild Cinema. Now that your knowledge of objects is expanding, we can go back and improve the cinema code. We've already written a getNextShowing function that takes a movie as an argument, but we could instead make this part of the movie object by making it a method. Let's do that. Okay. This is our first second part of this code. We've taken our code and placed it in a method of movie1 object with the property name getNextShowing. But we know that can't be quite right. We actually can't just throw the function in this object because getNextShowing takes a movie argument, and what we really want it is to call getNextShowing like this. No argument should be needed here. It's clear which movie we want. The next showing of that is we want the movie 1. Alright, so how do we fix this? We got to remove the parameter from the next showing method definition, but then we need to do something with all the references to movie.showtimes in the code, because once we remove the parameters, movie will no longer exist as a variable. Let's take a look. Let's get the movie parameters out of there. We are talking the liberty of removing the movie parameter and all of the references to it, which leaves us with this code. We highlighted the changes below. And this all looks pretty reasonable, but we need to think toward how the getNextShowing method will use the showtimes property. We're used to enter local variables which showtimes isn't, and global variables which showtimes isn't. Oh, and here another one, the title property. Now what? Alright, here is a conundrum. We got these references to the property showtimes and the title. Normally, in a function, we're referencing a local variable a global variable or a parameter of a function. But sometimes the title are properties of the movie one object. Well, maybe this just works. It seems like JavaScript might be smart enough to figure this out. No, it doesn't work. Feel free to give it a test drive. JavaScript will tell the show times and the title variables are indefinite. How can that be? Okay, here is the deal. These variables are properties of an object. But we aren't telling JavaScript with object. You might say to yourself, well, obviously we mean this object, this one right here. Now could there be any confusion about that? And yes, we want the properties of this very object. In fact, there is a keyword in JavaScript named this, and that is exactly how you tell JavaScript you mean this objects we're in. Now, the situation is actually a little more complicated than it appears here, we are going to get to that in a second. But for now, we are going to add this keyword and get this code working. And adding this keyword test drive with this. We'll talk about this in the next lesson. And here is our 22 lesson about JavaScript and HTML is over. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel, please put likes, share with friends and comment. Meditate, do exercise every evening, read more books, drink more water for the brain. Thank you. Bye.